You can lose your legal right to exist in a country in exactly 30 days. Not your job, not your apartment, your right to be there at all. And in the UAE, that clock starts the second your employer signs one form. Most expats don't even know the form exists until it's already been filed. This isn't a rumor. It isn't an anti-UAE hit piece. It's math, and it's federal law, and it applies to almost every single immigrant living in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Sharjah, and every free zone in between, regardless of your passport, your salary, or how long you've lived there. Here's the rule nobody explains before you move. In the UAE, your legal residency is not yours. It belongs to your employer. The second your employment ends, fired, laid off, resigned, contract not renewed, your residence visa is cancelled. Automatically, not eventually. Immediately in the system, whether you've found your next job or not. And that's just the opening move. Because what happens in the days after that cancellation is where most people quietly go broke, get deported, or get banned from re-entry, and almost none of them saw it coming. Stick with this, because by minute 6 I'm going to show you the exact hour-by-hour math of how a grace period turns into a permanent immigration file, and it's not what you think. Let's start with the number everyone quotes and almost nobody understands correctly: 30 days. 30 days is the standard grace period the UAE gives you after your visa is cancelled. Some categories, golden visa holders, green visa holders, certain skilled professionals, get up to 60, 90, even 180 days. But if you're a mid-level employee on a standard mainland or free zone contract, which is most people watching this, you're working with 30 days. That's it. 30 days to find a new sponsor. 30 days to get a new employment contract signed, stamped, and submitted. 30 days to get a new work permit issued through More. 30 days to get your new residence visa processed through immigration. All of that inside a single calendar month, or you cross into overstay status. And the fines start from day one. 50 dirhams a day, compounding, with no grace on the fines themselves. Now here's the part that breaks people, and it's the part almost no one explains before they sign their first UAE contract. The clock doesn't start on your last working day. It starts on the date your labor card or residence permit is officially cancelled in the government system, which can be days after you've actually stopped working. If you're on a mainland contract, that clock starts from your labor card cancellation. If you're in a free zone, it starts from your residence permit cancellation. Two different systems, two different start dates, and if your employer is slow, disorganized, or simply doesn't prioritize your paperwork, you can lose a week of your 30 days before you even know the countdown has begun. Sit with that for a second. You could be checking job boards, thinking you have 3.5 weeks left, when in reality, the government's internal clock already burned through 5 of those days without your knowledge. This is the part I want you to actually do, right now, in the comments. If you're currently on an employer-sponsored visa anywhere in the Gulf, go check. Do you actually know the exact date your grace period would start if you lost your job today? Not your last working day, the cancellation date. Most people typing a comment right now are about to realize they don't know. Because here's what's really being asked of every immigrant under this system, and this is the part that turns a bureaucratic rule into a psychological weight. You are required, every single day you work in the UAE, to privately calculate what would happen to your entire life if you were let go this afternoon. Where would you sleep in 30 days? Whether your kids would still be enrolled in school, whether your spouse's visa, which is very likely tied to yours, collapses at the same moment yours does. That last point matters more than people realize, and it's the second layer of this rule that almost nobody talks about publicly. If you're the primary visa holder and you sponsor your spouse or children, their legal status in the country is a mirror of yours. Your visa gets cancelled, theirs does too, on the same timeline, running the same 30-day clock. One job loss doesn't just threaten one person's residency. It threatens the entire households simultaneously, with each family member needing their own resolution before the same deadline. Now let's talk about money, because this is where the structural pressure becomes undeniable and stops being an opinion. The moment your contract ends, your employer-provided health insurance typically ends with it, often that same day, sometimes at the end of that calendar month if you're fortunate. Health insurance is not optional in the UAE. It's mandatory for every resident. So the day you lose your job, you may also lose your legal health coverage in a country where you're required by law to have it, while simultaneously running a 30-day countdown to find new sponsorship. If you need to buy a short-term private policy to stay compliant, that's an out-of-pocket cost, landing at the exact moment your income just went to zero. Then there's your final settlement. By law, your employer has 14 days to pay out your unpaid salary, your accrued leave, and your other dues. 14 days sounds reasonable, until you realize that's nearly half of your entire 30-day window, just waiting for money you're legally owed, before you can even start planning your next move with full information. There is one financial cushion built into the system, and it's worth knowing exists, because most people don't use it. It's called the Involuntary Loss of Employment Scheme, a monthly premium of 5 or 10 dirhams depending on your salary bracket that pays out compensation for up to 3 months if you're let go. But to qualify, you need 12 consecutive months of contributions before the job loss happens. Miss that window or never enroll in the first place, and there's no safety net waiting for you. Just the 30-day clock running on its own. Here's the open loop I promised you. Everything I've just described, the 30 days, the cancellation date confusion, the insurance gap, the 14-day settlement wait, all of it assumes you actually find a new job in time. But there's a mathematical trap inside the job search itself that most immigrants walk straight into. And it's the reason so many end up leaving the country, not because they wanted to, but because the numbers simply ran out. I'm getting to that in the next 2 minutes, so don't drift. Here's the trap. Most new employers in the UAE won't begin the visa sponsorship paperwork until after they've made a formal offer and you've accepted it. That paperwork itself, medical testing, Emirates ID processing, labor card issuance, visa stamping, routinely takes anywhere from a week to 3 weeks, even when everything goes smoothly. So if it takes you 2 weeks to land an offer, and another 2 weeks for the new company's HR to push your paperwork through the system, you've already used your entire 30 days, and that's the best case scenario, with 0 delays, 0 missing documents, and an employer who moves fast. This is why so many residents you'll meet in the UAE have a story about converting to a tourist visa or a job seeker visa mid-search. Not as a lifestyle choice, but as a financial patch to buy themselves more runway. The job seeker visa can extend your legal stay another 60 to 120 days depending on your qualifications, but it comes with its own eligibility requirements, its own fees, and its own paperwork, one more system to navigate while you're already financially exposed. Now play this forward to the ugliest version of the outcome, because I want you to see it clearly instead of vaguely fearing it. Miss the deadline by even 1 day, and the fines start immediately at 50 dirhams a day. Miss it by enough days and you're not just fined, you risk a formal immigration ban on your file, one that can follow you and block future entry, long after you've left. That's not a rumor designed to scare you. That's the documented consequence of overstay under current federal decree law, sitting quietly in the fine print of a system built around your employment, not your presence. So here's the honest, unemotional read on what this rule actually is. It's not designed to be cruel. It's designed for labor mobility and workforce control, and for citizens and long-term investors, it barely registers. But for the middle-class immigrant, the one renting a 2-bedroom in JVC, sending kids to a private school, sponsoring a spouse who isn't working, this single administrative rule is the actual foundation your entire life in the country is built on. Not your salary, not your savings, a 30-day government clock that starts the moment somebody else decides to let you go. And once you see it this clearly, you can't unsee it. Every immigrant who's built a life in the UAE, Singapore, or anywhere else running an employer sponsorship model is quietly running the same background calculation every single day, whether they admit it out loud or not. What happens to me in 30 days if today is the day? Here's what I want you to actually do with this, because understanding the rule is only half the value. Knowing your exact grace period category, knowing your cancellation start date versus your last working day, keeping 12 months of ILO contributions active, and having 3 months of expenses saved before you ever need them. That's the difference between this rule being a footnote in your life and it becoming the reason you have to leave a country you built a home in. That's not fear. That's just what the math has always said, for anyone willing to look at it honestly. If this changed how you think about the ground you're actually standing on, that's exactly the point. Drop your current grace period category in the comments. Tell me if you knew your real cancellation start date before this video, and if you know someone on an employer visa right now who's never actually run these numbers, send them this before they need it, not after. Like this if you want the next structural breakdown, because there's one coming on the salary numbers nobody's comparing correctly. And subscribe if you want to keep seeing the real math behind the countries everyone's arguing about online. This is financial self-defense.